tell it well of this old marketing.
And now, for your listening pleasure, here's Pulizzi and Rose, covering the week of media, marketing, and digital content news. This Old Marketing. Take it away, boys.
Well, hello, friends. Welcome to This Old Marketing, proudly brought to you by the HubSpot Podcast Network, the audio destination for business professionals, and I'm Robert Rose. Welcome to episode number 454, a special episode. It's a very, very special episode for Friday, November 15th, 2024. And with me, as always, as he always is, my pal, my colleague, and a guy, well, whose football team I'm certain by now has a better record than my football team, Mr. Joe Pulizzi.
You know, the good news is I talked to one of our devout listeners the other day.
Okay.
And they were saying, I have to, keep forwarding on to whatever, 10, 11-minute mark because you guys talk about football and I hate football. And I said, well, the good news is there's not going to be much football talk this year because we both are terrible. And
our teams
of
are
course,
terrible.
Dak went on the IR, and the entire Browns team went on the IR.
Is Dak on IR? I don't know that they've put him on IR yet.
I'm pretty sure they did. I'm pretty sure they put him on IR.
I don't think they have yet. I mean,
are you sure about this?
Do
we need to do a live check?
I'm doing.
We can do that's okay.
Right
I can filibuster. This is important. We need to check this information.
Let's see. 2 days ago. No, no.
They didn't put him on IR. Well, they're going to.
They're going to. Yes, they will. They will. This is the point. They will.
By the time this comes out, he will be on IR because we're recording it early.
He might be. He might be. Yeah. He's likely going on IR as the headlines today. But yeah. Anyway, and that by the way, those of you who don't know football, IR means injured reserve.
Injured reserve.
It means he has to miss the rest of the season at this point.
They used to call it the disabled list, but they don't do that anymore. Now it's the injured reserve or whatever. Yeah. We're Brown season ticket holders, and we had pretty good seats. The seats we've had. We bought them off of somebody that had the tickets for 50 years. Like it's a big deal.
Yeah.
And literally you can't give them away. It's like, no, it's like, hey, you want my Browns tickets? They're really good. It's like, no, I'm going, I think I'm going to go to the dentist or, I got, I'm going to pressure wash the sidewalk.
Yeah.
We get those kinds of things.
That's right. That's exactly right. Well, the reason I laugh so hard is because I'm a glutton for punishment, and I read the blogs about my Cowboys, and all of the comments these days are, "Oh, I got my Sundays back. I took the kids to the park today, and we went for ice cream instead of watching the games."
The only good thing going on in Cleveland sports right now is, as we're recording this, the Cavaliers are undefeated. They have the best record in the NBA right now, and 9-0. So they'll play a couple games by the time this one comes out, but they're playing really well. It's a fun team to watch. They pass the ball very well. They run. It's like it. Honestly, my son brought this up, and now it's starting to hurt because everything is kind of falling in place, but it's 2016 all over again. Of course, that's the year that, President Trump got elected for the first time.
Yeah.
It's the year that the Guardians went very far in the playoffs. The Cleveland Guardians went very far in the Major League and the Cavs won the championship that year.
There you go.
So
there you go.
But honestly, I'd take a do-over if I had a choice.
Right. Yeah.
Getting lots of virtual hugs from lots of people after last week's. Somewhat, I don't know if we did a great review.
It wasn't a great show.
It wasn't our best show.
No, it was definitely not our best show.
Well, you did a good job by asking some marketing related questions. And then I just went and started ranting again. I know I did it.
Yeah.
I listened to it again. I'm like, that's dumb. But I'm better now.
I am better too. I'm better as well. And so we're ready to have some fun and get back to normalcy and all that kind of stuff. And yes, I did get a couple of emails as well saying, big hugs, and basically
hugs,
make a
yes,
better show.
whatever. Yes, it's like, go, yeah, please, please do better.
Yeah,
It's like, I'll give you another chance. It's like, no, we
exactly.
got some special episodes coming up that are. I'm really looking forward to yours next week.
Yeah, I mean, this is a new experiment for us. We're doing this because both of us are traveling for the holiday, and then both of us are traveling because I'm off to Marketing Profs B2B conference. You're off to Italy. So we just thought, okay, well, we'll just basically fill November with special episodes. And so today is a special episode, of course, but then also next week will be my basically the alone show, as it were. And then after that, you have your own alone show.
Yeah, we have alone shows. We'll see if they. I'm interested to see how they perform.
Oh, I want to see who does better. Yeah, who does better. Yeah.
It's gonna be.
Yours will do better. Yours will.
No.
Do better.
Yours is a very, very good presentation.
Oh, mine's a better presentation. I don't know. I know that. I know that for a fact. But
that's always been our way.
Yes.
You bring the really smart, intelligent thinking, and I bring a little, orange showmanship.
That's right. I'm the Kamala to your Trump, basically.
Oh, jeez. I don't think that works.
I don't think it does either. I don't think it
anyways,
does either. Yeah.
Why don't you tell everybody what we're going to do?
We have a
today?
really cool show. You thought of this, and I thought it was just such a great idea, which is we're calling it the 4-question episode. Which is each of us is going to ask each of us 4 questions that we have not shared in advance. They're personal questions, business questions, but basically they're meant to be a little revealing. They're designed to be a little revealing about us as people and how we sort of manage our lives, our careers, or whatever it is. And so we'll ask, we'll take turns going back and forth. We'll ask each other the 4 questions, and hopefully it'll be entertaining. Hopefully it'll be something interesting. Hopefully maybe a little educational. Hopefully a little.
I think it will be.
Yeah,
I think
hope so.
Should be. It should be. Yeah. I always like to give disclaimers because we're doing something new. I tried to come up with questions that you've never answered here on the show.
As did I.
And there is some business aspects to a few of them, and other ones have nothing to do with business.
As did I.
Okay, good. Then we did the assignment well. We'll see if
yes. Well, we understood the assignment. We'll see if the assignment actually passes muster or not.
Good.
Do you want to go first, or shall I go first and ask you a question?
I'll go first. I will ask the first question.
All right.
And this is, I wanted to start a little bit easier, so I didn't want to get crazy.
Yeah, same here.
But I want to know. Acquiring minds want to know if you had $10,000 right now, what do you do with it? You have $10,000. Where is that? If you're going to invest, like outside that, what are you going to do with that $10,000?
You mean $10,000 surplus, right?
Surplus, surplus. Surplus. So and are you investing in something? What would that investment be?
It would be investment into I would throw it into my. I mean, this is a boring answer. I'll give you 2 answers because both of them are valid, but they're very opposite ends of the spectrum.
Okay.
So if $10,000 came in surplus right now, I would probably put it into my stock account, put it into my Schwab account, and buy an index fund of some kind, right?
So no special stock, just going into an index fund.
Yeah, well, that's what I've been doing lately. I've with a few exceptions of sort of things that I'm passionate about or things that I think are really super cool, like Nvidia and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not trying to be a stock picker anymore. I just basically put them into index funds and let it roll. It's easier that way. It's less stressful that way.
Great. Yeah.
And so that or as many, well, I don't know how many people know this, but I am a huge fan of awesome experiences. And given that we are in this time of year and that my anniversary is coming up, and business has been sort of meh this year. So my anniversary, we're not going to do much, but I would do something like really extravagant, like go to a really awesome resort in Mexico, or go to Hawaii, or go spend a few days somewhere and just eat really well and drink really well and
Got it.
and spend some time. So
you're
that's honestly, that's probably what I would do with it. I wouldn't probably put it into the investment fund. I would probably squander it on some awesome, lavish vacation.
You're investing it into your relationship. That's
Yes,
what that is.
That's right.
A heck of a lot more fun.
Yeah. That's a nice way to put it. But let's be honest. I'm the one who drinks the expensive tequila in my family.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, you do.
So
whenever we would go out and I would end up, covering the bill or whatever, you had a good chunk of that bill just because of the drinks.
Yeah.
Because you don't take off the shelf. You're not doing well tequila.
Yeah,
I don't think you've ever done well tequila.
Oh, God, no. I did as a kid. I drank Cuervo Gold and all that crap. But yeah.
Oh, no.
But that's not tequila.
Not the Robert Rose. There's not going to be. There's no tequila.
No.
It's like there's no international coach seating anymore.
That's true.
For the Robert
That's
Rose.
true. That's true.
Exactly. We talked about that.
Andrew Davis actually talks about this a lot. That the one thing that I've taught him in all of his career is travel elegantly. That's
a great way to put it, though.
If you have to travel elegantly, because it's worth it on your body.
I will accept that answer. Okay. I was curious if you were going to mention anything about Bitcoin.
Oh God, no. I mean, and not that I don't recognize that it's been. I mean, I do lament. I really do lament the fact that when the bottom fell out of NFTs and crypto, I got out. I just said, I'm out. I tapped out. So cashed out of all my Bitcoin holdings. And so I have a friend, one of my dearest friends, and including you, by the way, who didn't and are now like they're woohoo. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah.
I have one friend who got half of a Bitcoin. And half of a Bitcoin from TED. They went to the TED conference in 2013 or 2014.
Oh, and, lovely.
And as the swag part of the gift bag, you got a half a Bitcoin. And she put it into a thing.
That's the best swag ever.
Isn't it amazing?
It's a $35,000.
That's right.
Swag. Oh my God. That's fantastic.
So she's got half a Bitcoin and basically, yeah.
Imagine, I think we talked about this before. Imagine the number of people who got that, because I think they put it on a hard drive, like
they did. It was yeah. And well, what it was, they gave you at the time they gave you what's the bread? It ended up going away. Bread, BRD. It was a wallet.
Okay. Got it.
And Bread was one of the sponsors, and Bread gave away half a Bitcoin as a wallet. And so
how many of those people that didn't do anything with that? And they're like, oh,
yeah,
could have, should have. All right. Good job. I like that. That's the easiest question. I wanted to set you up with something that's not too.
All right. So I have a question for you.
Okay.
What do you think is the most misunderstood thing about you? Like, what do people most misunderstand about you?
Oh my God. I want to be self-deprecating on this one. Actually, I don't think I'm incredibly intelligent. I think people give me a lot more credit for.
This is a ridiculous answer, by the way, but all right, keep going.
I can give you another one, but it's true. I think
I'm going to ask for another one, just so you know.
Okay, so I'm gonna fan your flames here for a second. You have a much better handle on marketing than I do. What I tend to do really well is take, and I've done this for many years, is take something that you've said and I dumb it down to a point where it's more relatable to regular people. So if you read one of your read your most recent book, you've written a lot of books.
Yeah.
So your book, it's an excellent book, and it's really good from a educational, intellectual standpoint for that. If you take my book, mine is for the everyday marketer who they can grasp it. I use very simple examples. That's probably been my gift. But I think people then say, "Oh, Joe, you're like really smart. You get this marketing thing." I'm not marketing trained. Never have been.
Right.
I mean, I went to school for rhetoric, but there's no, I mean, and persuasive communication, but it really wasn't marketing communications, which is much different little aspects of it. So that's probably what I would say. I think people give me way too much credit for that. And then the other thing is, for some reason, a lot of people think that I'm very, very conservative.
Oh,
Like,
that's interesting. There's an interesting. That's
I
an
get
interesting
that, and maybe it's because I'm an old white guy.
Yeah, sure.
I get the. So this is weird. So maybe a lot of people don't have these interactions, but I've had the opportunity over the past many years to like go to golf clubs and be invited with friends to golf, and I played at some really nice resorts, and I am actually blessed and spoiled. But you get the back, hey, hey, Trump's doing good, right? Like I'll get that.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I'll
All
get that. And
right.
I'm like, and I have to say, I'm like, I say, hey, you're fine. You can believe whatever you want, but I'm not a fan.
I'm not a fan, right?
So, and those are people that obviously don't listen to the podcast or whatever, but it's just weird.
Yeah.
When you're around a lot of older white guys, you get conversations happen where you're like, whoa, where did
What's
that come from?
It's that
Are we
great,
back in 1950?
right?
Like,
Have you seen that Bill Burr bit that he does?
I
Where
don't
he's
think,
like, he's at a bar talking with somebody, and it's like, he's like, yeah, and a guy comes up to me and he goes, "Can I tell you something about black people?" And then he looks one way and he looks the other, and you're like, "Oh no, here it comes!" It's like he's you know it's not going to be good, and your question is, why is he talking to me about this?
oh my God. But
It's a great bit.
that
That's a
stuff
great bit.
that stuff still happens. Now the good
Yeah.
news is, especially lately, I've been able on the other side. So people don't know, like I'm not, I used to, and I talked about this on Facebook. I used to vote like straight red, like straight Republican. I
Yep.
grew up a Republican. I came from a Republican family.
Yep. I did too.
Yeah. So I was all for, hike up the bootstraps and, no government spending and
Yep.
all that's. And I've changed quite a bit from that. And I've had some really good conversations with my kids where we just talk about mostly basic human rights. Like that's really all we want. We would just want all humans, everyone in the United States of America, to just have the same rights. And we can see that they don't. And obviously this election kind of put a magnifying glass on some of those issues that we still have to fight through. So anyway, so that's the thing. First thing I absolutely believe, like and I always point to people when they send me a note and say, "Oh, Joe, would you be on this marketing interview or talk about this thing?" And I'm like, I'm the wrong guy. Talk to Robert. But when he says something really smart and then you want me to interpret it, that's for regular people.
It's
that.
why our marriage works so well is what I always say, right?
Yeah,
because I think it absolutely is a gift. I'm not claiming that I'm the author of anything that you come out with, because I'm continually astounded and amazed at the insight that you bring, and it is a gift to be able to say that in a simple way, right? I mean, there's the wonderful Einstein quote, right? Make it as simple as possible and no simpler. You have a true gift for that, right? Which is make it completely, which is what marketing should be, by the way. And marketing is not hard. It is, there's a lot, as I always say, marketing is a very large, shallow sea. Once you understand it, it's not that deep, but there's just a lot of it. There's a lot of it to understand. You can make it your life's work, but understanding the concepts of it.
I didn't mean to turn this into like a positive thing for me.
Yeah.
But anyways, so that I don't know. Did I answer that? Okay.
You did. Yeah.
A couple answers there.
I thought the conservative thing is a really interesting twist. Yeah.
Boy, yeah, you gotta. And I, you know what? I'm getting older and I'm losing more hair, and more of those conversations just seem to happen. Like,
it's funny because the saying is, the old saying is that the older you get, the more conservative you get. I find it exactly the opposite.
Well, I find it the opposite with us, but specifically with some of the people that are close to me in my life, not my friend group, but outside some of my family, that's absolutely going that direction.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it's a trope for a reason. I mean, there's stereotypes are a stereotype for a reason, but yeah.
So, all right. Good deal. Awesome. Thank you.
All right.
That was
Yeah.
one.
That was fun. Yeah.
This episode's going to be like 7 hours long.
Yeah. This episode brought to you by Psychiatry Today. Have you visited your doctor?
Better help.
Yes.
Do you want me to do one more question before we get to the payment here? Okay.
Yeah,
So this one, I've been working on this question. I think you'll get what I'm trying to go for here. So you grew up in and around a comedy club.
I did.
A lot of people don't know that, and you haven't talked about it much on this podcast. And I know that it really deeply affected you in many different ways. Can you give one or two takeaways from your comedy club experience that continually come back to you, that resonate with you, that you've taken with you into marketing or just into your life from that comedy club experience?
Oh, the great question. I love this question. Yeah, well, this is another one that I could go off for half an hour on, but okay, I'll give you two things. And the first one is a little more, I guess, superficial, which is, so you're right. I mean, it was ostensibly 4 years, 1983 to 1887 ish, right? Is when it was completely illegal for me to work there as a kid. But my dad owned the place. So basically I was able to work there, as a doorman and got to interact. And I did the introduction to the comedians. I was the guy on the microphone going, and now coming to the stage, and so,
Nice.
and basically I did that. And so if you think about that time frame, we had every famous comedian that you can think of, right? That really became famous in the 90s, right? So, because remember, this is a small comedy club in Dallas, so they were coming through as stand-up comics in there. So I met Jerry Seinfeld, I met Jay Leno, I met Ellen DeGeneres, I met Roseanne Barr, and the list goes on and on and on. So all of those comedians and every single one of them, what I learned about this was celebrity and being famous is not a thing. Like, they're just people. And so it ended up, they have the same insecurities, they have the same challenges, they have the same, their fame does not solve anything. And fame is one of those things that ultimately is more of a problem than it is a benefit. And it's interesting because you'll hear actors and famous musicians and stuff talk about this, right? Like, you'll see this a lot where they'll say, if they could change anything, they wouldn't change the money. The money is great. The ability to go out and do what they love to do is great, but they would change being able to, like, walk down the street or be a famous person. And it was an interesting lesson for me in terms of the way that you deal and the way that you look at yourself when you have any level of notoriety or visibility, let's put it that way. And I think it's really helped me sort of keep my reality about me, keep my humility about me in elements where, honestly, in some cases where I go keynote or I go do something and I'm treated very well, to be honest with you, and it sort of just goes, you know what? It's not that it's not a thing, right? It's a lovely thing that people want to come up and, take selfies with you and do the thing like that. But it's not a thing. And it was very educational for me. The second thing, which is a little more, I think, what you're getting at, was really understanding the art of engaging people, and what that really meant. When I would watch so many, every single night. I worked there 7 nights a week, and I would watch these comedians work an audience and engage people and make them laugh, and seeing what really works, and seeing how the craft behind speaking, the craft behind engaging people, the craft of actually, working in a particular joke with a particular set of. I would watch comedians. Jerry Seinfeld was this way. I watched Jerry Seinfeld once. He was there for a week and a half, and so every night, and he would do the same routine every night, but he would change the wording ever so slightly and change the language ever so slightly. And he would work it and work it and work it until, and it was word for word, right? It was, and so that was the key for me, was how prepared and how carefully the craft of speaking and engaging people really, really was.
That's so interesting. I watched an interview about Chris Rock with that same thing, and he's just got a similar process to Seinfeld, where he just works it out, and he focuses on breaks, like a half a second here, and I need to repeat this here, I need to say this over on this side of this, and I'm like, this is just, it's next level stuff when you think about speaking and engaging with somebody, and it really is incredible. Do you miss the comedy club experience? But just like,
no, I don't miss the comedy club experience at all. I mean, because there was plenty of weird, plenty of weird shit that came out of that as well. I mean, some that period of my life, I was a ne'er-do-well. I was definitely a punk. And that's a whole other show, but
we'll leave that for the next set.
That's a whole, there's a lot that I'm not proud of during that time frame, but moving to LA was what, in 1987, the comedy club closed down, and immediately, like within 2 months of that happening, I made the decision to move to Los Angeles, and that
this was the comedy club was in Texas.
That's right. It was in Dallas. Yeah,
okay,
it was in Dallas.
Very good. All right, thank you.
All right, sure.
Insight into
do you want to pay a bill now, or do you want me to ask you your question now?
Why don't you ask me mine, and then we've got 2 more after that. We'll split it evenly. Okay, I'm ready.
What, and you've answered this a little bit, but I'm hoping you don't pick the same example that you've talked about before, but I want, in your life, what's the worst experience in your life that changed you for the positive the most, and what did it teach you? And I don't want you to pick, if you can avoid it, I don't want you to pick leaving Penton and starting CMI.
The worst experience? You want the worst experience, right?
I want the worst experience that changed you for the best.
The worst experience that changed me for the best.
Yeah.
Well, I always come up with the losing my biggest client in 2009. I mean, but I've talked about that one. Do you want me to tell that story?
Yeah.
You don't want that one though, do you?
That's the one I don't want. If you have something else, if you have something else.
Oh,
if you don't, tell that story, but if you do have something else.
I
mean, it could be personal too. It doesn't have to be a professional thing, right?
Well, so I remember lots of, our life,
lots of bad things.
I could go all day. I could go all day on this stuff.
Yeah.
The one that quickly comes to mind, and this is in high school, there was we were taking it was a geometry class. We were taking a math test, and I was, everybody in the class was talking to each other while the class was going on, and I was part of it.
Yeah.
And the teacher said, "You're cheating." And on that, and I'm like, I'm just talking, whatever. We're all talking. Yes, I've got my paper. No, you're cheating. And I was giving an F on that test, which ultimately gave me a B for that class, which was my only B in high school. And this is how crazy obsessive I am about that stuff. I still think about that today.
Yeah.
And Miss Larkin, I'm so upset about it. Now, my own fault. I shouldn't have been talking.
But how did that change you for the better? How did that change you? How did that experience change you for the better?
When you're taking a test, mind your own business and keep that. Probably not a good example from that standpoint. What's a better example of that would be the worst thing that happened. There were some there were some moments, I think, just in my relationship with my current wife before we got married, where I think I was always under the impression where, oh, I don't know, I didn't necessarily want this serious relationship in my life. We met, I was very young. I was 20 years old, and I met the love of my life, and then I'm always like, oh no, I think I met her too soon. And I was always fighting that.
Yeah.
I'm like, I want to be, it's like, I was so blessed. I mean, how many people get to meet the love of your life at any moment?
Right.
Like we're blessed. You and I are both blessed because we've been able to do that.
Sure.
But I'm like, oh, I want to go on to get I want to go to Penn State. I want to go travel the world. I want to go to whatever. But I'm also at the same time, I'm like, I met this person and I want to spend the rest of my life with her, but not yet. But
right. Well, that
but
happens when you're 24, 25, 26, 27 years old. You know, that's a bad time for, by the way, that's a bad time for basically kids at that
yes.
mid-20s is like it's when
that's
you're
when
sowing all
when-
those wild oats, right?
We had started having kids in our mid to late 20s.
Yeah.
So still very young, especially when I see I've got two in their early 20s right now, and I'm like, wow, was that me? Was that
Is that me?
I guess what I learned
Did
from
I
that
do that?
and I don't know if this is a guy thing or this is just a me thing.
Yeah.
But all throughout my 20s, I look back on my life as I was always just thinking about Joe.
Yeah.
I was almost always, and that really didn't change, even though, I mean, I don't know what my wife would say about this, but it really changed when I had my first child.
There you go.
And I remember it's weird because Joshua was born, and I had this, I just had this uncontrollable cry. Like I still think about it. I'm like, we were crying together, Pam and I. I mean, she went through a 19-hour labor. So the whole thing was like, wow. But I was there, and I'm like, oh my God, that's the first time that hit me. It's like, it is not about you. And it should have been before that. I should have been more about, okay, we are together. Yeah. I think I should have been a better husband. But then when Joshua it's like everything changed. And then I don't want to like leave Adam out of it as well. But when the kids and I think from that moment on, I have tried to think in almost and I failed way more than I've succeeded, but I've tried to always think about the other. It's like, look, at this situation is not about you. You know, and I get into the whole Joe show thing. I mean, I've been up on stage, I got the orange suit on, I'm playing the character, I'm doing all those things. But and that leads to the one that maybe this is even better. I'm going on a little bit, but here's a really good example. When the Nick Offerman situation, I regret it so much because when I got so frustrated that Nick Offerman was late to the main, and I had to filibuster on stage till he got there, and I got off of stage and I was so mean to everybody. It's nobody's fault. We were all dealing with the same thing, but I came off the stage. I said some horrible things to people, and I don't do that. And because I was so frustrated, I just let my professionalism go. And I still apologize to some people about that because I just felt terrible.
Yeah.
And
I've done that for sure.
And I made it about me.
Yeah.
And it wasn't. Yeah, it was unfortunate. But you know what? In the grand scheme of things, not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
Nobody really noticed. We worked through it. I should have been a better professional. I will always forget that. Or I will always remember that, because when I look at an event or any situation, I look at all the moving parts and all the people trying to do a really, really difficult part. And I try to acknowledge that positively and not get into my own head, which we can do a lot, especially as speakers.
Totally.
It's like, oh, hey, I'm the keynote. I'm coming in, going to do my thing. But that was, so the two answers that you probably wanted are, one, being a little less selfish and really with the recognition of my children being born. And second is, it's not about you. It's hardly ever about you.
Yeah.
And it's about how you react to things.
Yep.
So I took a bad situation and I could have made it a lot better, but I made it a lot worse by how I reacted to it. And I always try to keep that in mind. It's not what happens to you, it's how you react to it is the most important thing. So
Awesome.
there's
That's awesome.
that.
That was an amazing answer to a question I didn't ask. So, and with that, we should
I think I did answer.
Yeah,
I didn't answer.
It was a great answer. It was a great. It's not the question I asked, but it's I love the answer anyway.
Well, again, I made it about me because
there it
I don't
is.
even remember the original question then.
Yeah. Pay some bills, will you?
Okay, hold on. Here we go.
So, you want to be a marketer. It's easy. You just have to score a ton of leads and figure out a way to turn them all into customers. Plus, manage a dozen channels, write 1 million blogs, and launch 100 campaigns all at once. When that's done, simply make your socials go viral and bring in record profits. No sweat. Okay, fine. It's a lot of sweat. But with HubSpot's AI-powered marketing tools, launching benchmark-breaking campaigns is easier than ever. Get started at HubSpot.com/marketers.
There are a million podcasts out there, so which one should you follow? Well, why not try My First Million, hosted by Sam Parr and Sean Puri. It's brought to you by the HubSpot Podcast Network, the audio destination for business professionals. My First Million features famous guests like Alex Hermazi, Sophia Amoruso, and Hassan Minaj sharing their secrets for how they made their first million and how to apply their learnings to capitalize on today's business trends and opportunities. You can find My First Million wherever you follow your favorite podcasts.
Still turns it back.
I forgot. Is that your AI music?
Yeah, it's totally cool. That's one of my. That's got to be my favorite one so far.
By the way, I talked to you about Neil Diamond's A Beautiful Noise, the musical, right? Did I talk to you about this?
No.
Oh my God. It's one of the best musicals I've seen in a long time. So if anyone, I highly recommend A Beautiful Noise. And by the way, I did not realize first how many Neil Diamond songs I actually adore, and second, how many songs he wrote for
other people.
Yeah. So I mean, I had no idea he wrote Red Red Wine.
Oh yeah. Sure.
See, I don't know these things. I mean, you're a little older and wiser than I am.
Yeah, well, there's that. There is that.
There it is again.
There it is.
Okay, I have an easy kind of a layup question, or I have a more in-depth one. Do you want to save the in-depth one for the last one?
Sure, because I have an in-depth one for you, but to finish up with. But
here's just here's a layup, I think, and then the second one is a little bit more serious that I'm really intrigued with. So here's the next question is: you cannot live in Dallas or in Los Angeles or in that surrounding area. Where do you live and why?
Wait a minute.
You cannot live in Dallas.
Oh well, God, who wants to live in Dallas?
I'm just saying because you've lived in Dallas. You cannot live in Dallas, or let's maybe better. You cannot live in Texas, and you cannot live in California.
Okay.
Where do you live?
Yeah, that
and why?
Harder.
Yes. Where do you live and why?
There's a very, very, very easy question. There's a very easy answer.
Oh, I didn't know this. Okay.
Oh yeah, London, England. Yeah, London.
And why?
100%. I absolutely adore that city. I am an Anglophile. I love London. I love England. I love the British culture. I have great affection for the English, which would drive my mother batshit, by the way, because she was Scottish. I've talked about this on the show before, where I actually prefer Irish whiskey to Scotch whiskey. And that would drive my mother absolutely bananas. As my mother, my grandfather, my uncle, they're all Scottish, right? They all lived in Glasgow. And so I come by it honestly, but yeah, it's England. I would live in England in a heartbeat.
Here's why that answer surprises me, because I don't see you on the underground.
Well, I would eventually get there. I mean, here's the thing. I would probably, if money weren't a thing, I would live outside of London. I would live in the English countryside somewhere. but if money's a thing and I got to commute in and I got to actually go to work and do stuff, I would live somewhere in the London greater metropolitan area. And of course I would get on the tube. I just don't now, because when I go to London, I prefer to walk most places. I walk almost.
It's a very walkable.
Yeah. And I don't really have need to go very far when I'm in London. And so I'm either taking a quick cab or an Uber or walking. So I don't have need for the tube for most things, but yeah.
I did not know it was London. I did not know that was going to be your answer.
London,
So, but you love LA.
I love LA. I love Southern California. I mean, so second on my list would probably be, because you eliminated California, second on my list would probably be up north in California somewhere. Not San Francisco. I would not want to live in San Francisco, but I would live
Sacramento.
No. On the coast somewhere. So up near, I would probably live up near Monterey or near somewhere along the coast there. Again, it's a money and access thing, right? It's super expensive, but it's also really hard to get access to airports and stuff like that. Yeah. So money not being an object, I would live in Northern California somewhere. And if I had to have a job somewhere, if I had to go, in all honesty, we did have a casual, I would say, chat about this last election. It was like Elizabeth and I said, London, and it was an option.
It's funny, and you already know this, but Pam and I talked about we'd like to do like 3 months or something in London.
Oh God, I would totally do that. We've talked about doing that. Elizabeth and I have talked about doing that.
Yeah,
like
it's
getting figuring out a little pied a terre or something like that in London.
It is such a special city and so easy to get around, and yeah, absolutely. So okay, see, I told you that was a layup.
Yeah, there you go. All
right, good.
All right, okay. This is another sort of deeper question.
I'll try to answer it this time.
Okay. All right. What's a dream that you've had since childhood that you've never pursued, and why? It could be a dream job. It could be a dream avocation. Something. What's a dream that you've had since you were a kid, but you never ended up pursuing, and why?
Dream is a stretch. But I always thought that I would do the backpacking thing through Europe. I never got that opportunity to do that. I've talked to my children about they want to go to Japan. And we were considering at some point, and maybe that's still on the table, where we would go and do
totally. You got to get to
do
Japan.
That sort of thing in Japan.
Yeah.
My youngest has been to Japan.
Yeah.
The thing I always wanted to learn, I'm throwing out a couple things. I always wanted to learn Italian just because of my heritage.
Another language. Yeah.
And I have been working on it. I've been working on it for 6 months.
It's hard for us. It's hard for us at this age to do a language.
It's very difficult, and I've never been good at it. I took Italian in college, and I didn't remember. I think a year after I was done, forgot everything.
As you get older, you just start translating it, right? You start you run a translator in your head, and it just slows you down too much.
But the one dream that so it's interesting. I grew up in a restaurant atmosphere, like you were around a comedy club. When I was 4 years old, I was at the restaurant watching my dad cook, and my mom was the hostess. So I learned very quickly. I could see at a young age that it was so difficult for both of them. But I liked the idea of owning a business. I just didn't like that business. And then I also, on the other side, my grandfather owned the funeral home, as you know. So I grew up in that business. My dream was always to start a business.
Yeah.
What I struggled with for so many years until we got to Content Marketing Institute was what can I start? What can I don't have any real talents. Like what do I start? And then that's when it all came together, where I enjoy public speaking. I enjoy writing. I love talking about persuasion, those types of things. And that's ultimately it came to the point where you and I met in 2008 in Chicago.
Screwed it up for so many people.
God, that meeting never. It's like we should do a sliding. I would love to see a sliding doors if we never met at Scott Abel's event.
Yeah.
And it just what
Yeah.
would have happened?
Yeah.
Because I was thinking about doing, we both basically helped each other's confidence that this was the right direction for
Totally.
marketing to go.
100%. I mean, it was.
So,
I remember the moment, right, in that restaurant where you and I went and had that in Chicago, where you and I went and had that big steak dinner, and we talked about life, and we talked about business, and we talked about marketing, and it was just like, this is where I'm hitching my wagon, right? It was a good meal.
it all worked out. But it's
Yeah.
funny, still at that time, nobody was talking about what we were talking about. It's like, how do we get
No.
business from this?
Exactly. Right.
How do we that's great. We love it. We love
Right.
this idea that you could create this thing and build an audience and deliver value outside your products and
Right.
services. But how do we make a living?
Like,
This
right.
is-
Is this going to
So,
be like a thing?
yeah, it worked. It worked. Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Hopefully I answered.
Yeah, no,
at
that
least
was a
one of
good
those
one. Yeah, that was a good one.
So here's my last one.
Okay.
You do a lot of interviews. I've seen a lot of your interviews. You do some written interviews. You do some on podcasts. You do some on CMI.
Yeah.
But what is that one question that you don't get asked about marketing that you really wish you did, but nobody has ever asked you?
Well, okay. Okay, look, so here's so we used to make fun of this at CMI back in the day. I am a student of marketing. I am a fanboy of the old masters of marketing, and I am a student of it. And so this is going to be kind of a lame answer, I think, but we'll see how lame it is. But I have such an appreciation, like a true fanboy appreciation for the old, like I mean, even on the bookshelf behind me, the books that you see back there are written by Peter Drucker, by Theodore Levitt, everybody that was the fathers and mothers of marketing. And I have such appreciation for that, and I'm a geek about it. I'm a total nerd about that stuff. And we used to make fun of it at CMI, where it was like, okay, roll your eyes enough about Theodore Levitt, or enough about this guy or that guy, or it's like, oh yeah, we get it. And so that is probably the one question I don't get asked that I wish people would, because I would go off on it, right? Just sort of everything that I've learned from all of these masters of business and masters of marketing over the years. And one of my pet peeves, honestly, is so much of what's happening now in marketing. Like, you'll see these, it happens a lot with the tech bros and sort of that community, where they go, there's this new thing and it's amazing. And you're just like, yeah, Peter Drucker was talking about that 60 years ago. Like, I mean, it's like, do some research, right? You didn't discover anything, right? And I think one of the things that you and I immediately recognized about content marketing was that it wasn't new, that there was a new application of it because of the digital era, but the actual concept of it, in fact, the magic of the concept of it was the fact that it's been around since Benjamin Franklin. And so that is the kind of, so it's the history and the student and those kinds of questions that I get asked about the least, that I guess that would be my answer.
It's so funny you bring that up, because I don't know what year it was, maybe 13 or 14, when we did the skit for Content Marketing World.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking
was
of.
Your bit. Your
Yeah.
bit was, you'd walk in, I think it was to Amanda.
Yeah,
and you'd
that's right.
keep coming to this. Well, did you hear? Did I tell you about the
Right.
Joseph Campbell thing?
Yeah,
Like,
right,
you would
right.
just,
Right.
and it was so you,
Yeah.
and you just never
Yes.
got to
Yeah.
do that.
Because it was a bit we did. It was the bit was that we were doing a takeoff of The Office, right?
That's right.
And I was to Amanda going, Theodore Levitt, for the love of God, we've got to get that in there. And then it cuts to her in the office, and she's rolling her eyes, going, "We get it, we get it. The history of marketing, the history of content marketing, we get it. We're so sick of it."
And by the way, that history of content marketing that we all as a team worked on, that was so
That's
good.
still an amazing piece.
Yeah, it's still, I think that's probably still one of the most hit pages.
Yeah.
Where people look, where you do the Jello example and all that,
Yeah,
Ben Franklin
right.
and everything. That's good. Awesome.
Okay.
Very good. All right. I like it.
I got one more for you real quick.
All right.
So here we go.
Here it is.
This is, I will tell you that this is sort of by popular demand, because I get this question about you. It's the number one question I get about you that you honestly haven't really answered on this show of late, which is, what is next for you? Like, what is the next thing for Joe Pulizzi? What is next for you? What next adventure are you going to be taking on?
Well, the good news is I do have somewhat of an answer. So I think everyone knows we started the Tilt. We started Content Entrepreneur Expo. We were blessed to find a great partner in Lulu to buy both of those properties in the middle of last year. From that, CEX is still alive and well. The Tilt newsletter is alive and well. The product is Tilt Publishing, which is a hybrid publisher for nonfiction authors, and that's going strong, and I'm still involved in that. But now I'm with all that, and by the way, and CEX is in August of next year. I will still host that event and all that stuff, but as the business goes and the day-to-day, I am out, and I'm moving out of that.
Right.
And what I'm working on right now, and I'm taking it with me as Pam and I travel, is I am actively writing my next novel.
That's fantastic.
And that, so the goal of is in the next couple months to have a draft of this. I don't know. I've got 20,000 words written. So it's on the way.
Amazing.
I don't feel great about it, but I've got a good solid direction. It's a follow-up to The Will to Die, which is the first novel that I wrote in 2019. And my plans are to continue to travel and see things. And like you, I love big, crazy experiences. I love to see, meet other people from other places and see things. I'm totally blessed to be in that position. And I have my little iPad with the keyboard, with all synced up and ready to go with my draft. And I'm working on it, and I'll work on it while I'm gone. And so that's, I would like to write non-business things.
I love that.
Have nothing to do with marketing. And by the way, and you know this, we've talked about it. I always have a love and a passion for marketing.
Sure.
It got me to where I'm at, but I don't have the passion for marketing that I had, when we started.
I totally get it. I can be I get to be your sort of virtual representation of that every week here. Right. So you get to experience that without having to experience it, as it were.
It's interesting. I'll be at Author Nation this next week. So, and by the way, that's mostly fiction. So, but I do like it because I get to meet a lot of mystery authors and whatever. And these people are prolific. And when I met the authors last year, I published 9 books in my lifetime, and I was the least published author there.
Wow.
So the people I met had 30, 40, 60 books.
Right. Well, when it's your thing, when writing is your thing, then it's your job, right? What was Stephen King used to say, 5 pages a day or something like that.
Yeah. And that's what I want to get to. I want to get to where I wake up, what my routine is, no matter where I'm at in the world, but I get up and I, bow before the gods of writing and give that time and that effort. Cause I know that when I struggled with the Will to Die in the first novel, is once I got into the rhythm of it, my life changed.
Yeah.
Everything. But it's so hard to get into that rhythm because you have to do it every day, just like everything else we talk about, consistency. And I want to get to that point again.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome.
Very good.
That was
fun. Yeah, that was good. That was good.
Really fun. We'd love to feedback. If you liked it, let us know. If you didn't like it, we don't care.
Well, we're gonna need a couple special episode ideas for 25 because you and I are both traveling at the beginning of 25. So maybe if people want to submit their own questions, we'd be happy to do one of these.
That would be fun.
From other people.
Yeah, that would be fun.
Like we did. By the way, we did that for the marketing one with this, and that seemed to go really well. We got a lot of good feedback.
Yeah, that was great. I love that episode. That's a fun one.
Very good. Well, that was fun.
All right.
That's it. I'm gonna sign off. But if I don't see you, Robert, have a great holiday. And I will talk to you on the flip side.
You do the same thing. All right. And to all of you, well, we'll see you next week. Of course, I'll be on my solo show. And then the week after that, Joe will be on his solo show. And then we'll be back basically after Thanksgiving with another episode with news and all the snarkiness and all the jokes and the winners and the losers and the rants and the raves. All of that will be back after Thanksgiving. And in the meantime, until we see you next week, until I see you next week, just remember, everybody, it's your story to tell. Tell it well. We'll see you next week on This Old Marketing. Hey, thanks a lot for making it this far in this week's episode, and thank you all for being a part of This Old Marketing. You can check out all the show notes of what we talked about today at thisoldmarketing.com, and it's also where you can leave us a review or a voicemail. We need those reviews and comments on whichever platform you follow us on. And if you haven't followed the podcast, please go do that and make sure you catch the latest and greatest episodes every Friday morning. We're on Apple and Spotify and all your other favorite podcatchers, of course, but we'd love it if you went over and subscribed to us on YouTube. That's right, YouTube. youtube.com/@thisoldmarketing. We'll see you again next week, folks, with another episode of This Old Marketing.